Good day, guitar gang. This is one for the beginners out there. I have some tips that I've accumulated over the last 14 years of teaching full time. Some of you guys have a lot of good intent and you practice a lot, and sometimes it's just not happening. So I'm going to give you some really simple tips that will definitely help. Number one, thinking like a musician from day one, and not just a guitarist that just wants to play some songs, right? There are some things that are going to help you out long term. Listening. And I know it sounds silly, we all listen to music, but I mean really listening to movements in music, harmonies in music. Now, these are just words. In practical terms, movements, just the movements of notes. And I think when I first started, none of this was even on my radar. I wouldn't say that I wasn't interested, but I didn't know. I can't express how useful things like the major scale are in terms of just listen to it, listen to the notes. There are 7 different notes, 7 unique notes there, but it's an 8-note scale, as the last note is the same as the first note. Just listen to the movements. Now, it may not do much, but later on, it's going to help with everything. This major scale that we speak of so commonly is rightly so spoken of so commonly. It's the building blocks of music. I spoke about harmony. This is about types of chords. So I'm not talking about a D chord or a G chord. I'm talking about major chords or minor chords. I'm sure you've heard of those terms. And again, like when you first start, a lot of teachers will teach you chords like E minor, G major, but they're missing something there. Add in what the sounds of these chords sound like. Major chords, they sound happy. Minor chords, they sound sad. And that's how I'd explain it to a 7-year-old or a 777-year-old, right? I could go on way further with this, and I do with my students. It's little information, but little and often, so that it sinks in. And long term, it is so useful. And you start feeling good about yourself as well, because you start seeing yourself as an overall musician. And as I say, not just a guitarist who can play as cool as that is. Right, going to move on to number 2. This one is very important. Try not to perfect everything that you're learning before moving on. You don't need to perfect the chord changes. You don't need to perfect the riff that you're learning before you move on. Because when you do move on to something else, what you're learning in the new thing will help the issues that you had with the old thing, even if it's something slightly different. It's the same even when you're just learning chords. So you may start off with an E minor chord, and you may think, okay, I've got that, brilliant. And then you move on to C, and you go, okay, I'm getting there. Look, there's a threshold that you have to meet, which is that you've tried it enough. But then move on to another chord, move on to D. And when you go back to C, it will be easier. So it's moving on to other things and not just perfecting everything to start with, because mistakes smooth out over time. Next one is not listening to your own playing. Now, in this day and age, we have no excuse to not record ourselves. And you don't have to set yourself up in front of a camera with a ring light on and post it onto social media. Just open up a voice memo on your phone. I'm pretty sure everyone has that. And just hit record. It will timestamp it, so you can look back through and listen and go, okay, so a month ago when I was playing this chord or this song, it sounded like this. Now, a month later, does it sound better? Of course, you hope that it does. And if not, well, then, you know, you're paying for lessons or whatever, so you need to talk to your teacher and say it's not. So what else can I do to work on this? Very important. And again, something that I definitely wish that I did to start with. We didn't really have phones when I started, but maybe that's no excuse. I do wish that I did. And I do it now. So, because we never stop learning. Last point. This one's a bit more niche, I suppose. This is about changing chords and not having the chord changes perfect. I suppose this sort of goes on from my second point, which is not perfecting everything before you move on. But this is a bit more specific to chord changes. When you're changing chords, even if you're not quite in the next chord, like I wasn't then, you keep your right hand going. This is what I call the keep strumming technique. That's what it says on the tin. Keep strumming technique. You keep your right hand going even if the chord change isn't quite there. And so I suppose that going back to the title of this video, stop practicing like this, it's to stop practicing like this. Now, there was only a short gap between those chord changes, but if I carried on practicing that way, I don't think that gap would get any smaller because there's no pressure being applied from anywhere. If we don't have pressure applied, then nothing is going to change. So the pressure needs to be applied from your strumming hand. Your strumming hand needs to keep going, and the pressure will persuade your left hand to, or your fretting hand, to change chords quicker. So a quick recap. The first one, listening exercises and listening to music, listening to the chords that you're playing, listening to the scales that you're learning. All of that is long-term going to help. Number two is not perfecting things before you move on. Number three is not listening to your own playing. And then number four goes off of number two. It's specifically about chord changes. So with your chord changes, make sure that you're keeping your right hand strumming so that you're applying pressure to change your chords. I'm going to be honest, there are loads more, but I can't give everything away. So if you do want to find out more, I have a very cheap course, very professional, but very affordable course. I think it's about £15. It's a complete beginner course, and I'll put the link in the description. Second to that, I of course teach one-to-one lessons online. And if you'd like to apply for lessons, then you can email me on contact@apguitar.co.uk, or you can pop a comment down below and let me know. Or you can visit my website on www.apguitar.co.uk. But look, regardless of any of that, put a comment down below as well and just let me know what you're struggling with. And I may be able to do a video about that. But in the meantime, keep positive, keep going, and listen.